It is September 9th, 1900. A steamship called the Farabee pulls into Texas City carrying a handful of survivors. They have no words. They can barely speak. The message they carry is this: Galveston is gone, not damaged, not flooded, gone.
The great hurricane of 1900 that devastated Galveston Island.
While the hurricane is well known to Texas history buffs, what may not be so familiar is how, after the storm,
12 hours earlier, Galveston, Texas, was the wealthiest city on the Gulf Coast. A glittering, electric, cosmopolitan port that handled more cotton than any city in the world. A place with telephones, gas lamps, ornate mansions along tree-lined boulevards. A city of 38,000 people living at the absolute peak of American ambition. By sunrise on September 9th, somewhere between 8,000 and 12,000 of them are dead. Bodies are stacked in the streets. Children are buried under rubble. Entire city blocks have been erased, not damaged, not flooded, erased, as if they were never built. This is the deadliest natural disaster in the history of the United States, and almost nobody knows it happened. But to understand how 8,000 Americans died in a single night, you have to go back to 1891 and a single government official who told an entire city it was safe. Galveston sits on a thin barrier island in the Gulf of Mexico. It is, by any geological definition, a large sandbar, 27 miles long, barely 2 miles wide at its widest point. The highest ground on the entire island reaches just 8.7 feet above sea level. Think about that. The highest ground. 8.7 feet. By 1900, Galveston is Texas's crown jewel, the first city in the state with electricity, the first with telephones. Its downtown district, called the Strand, is nicknamed the Wall Street of the Southwest. Ships from Europe, Latin America, and Asia crowd its harbor. It processes more trade than New Orleans. Millionaires build Victorian mansions on Broadway Boulevard. It is rich. It is proud. It believes deeply that it is untouchable. That belief has a name: Isaac Monroe Klein. Klein is the director of the U.S. Weather Bureau's Galveston office, one of the most respected meteorologists in the country. In 1891, he writes an article in the Galveston Daily News and publishes his official meteorological opinion for the record. He writes that the idea of a hurricane doing serious damage to Galveston is, and these are his exact words, simply an absurd delusion. When city residents petition for a protective seawall, having watched a neighboring city, Indianola, get wiped off the map by hurricanes in 1875 and 1886, it is Klein's authority, Klein's confidence, that helps kill the proposal. No seawall is built. Meanwhile, scientists at the Bailén Observatory in Cuba are tracking Caribbean hurricanes with remarkable precision. They understand these storms. They want to share that data with the United States. Washington refuses to listen. The U.S. Weather Bureau, under its politically ambitious director Willis Moore, blocks Cuban forecasts from reaching American offices. Moore considers accepting foreign data an embarrassment. This decision will cost 8,000 lives. What was about to happen to Galveston wasn't random. It wasn't unpredictable. It had been predicted, it had been modeled, and it had been ignored by every person with the power to prevent it. On August 30th, 1900, a tropical disturbance forms in the Atlantic, approximately 125 miles northwest of Martinique. It moves west. It crosses Cuba as a tropical storm on September 3rd. Cuban meteorologists immediately recognize the pattern. They transmit urgent warnings. This storm is not turning north toward the Atlantic. It is heading into the Gulf of Mexico. It is strengthening. Washington doesn't pass that warning to Galveston. Instead, the U.S. Weather Bureau forecasts the storm will curve northeast, up the Florida coast, away from Texas. This is the forecast Isaac Klein believes. On September 4th, Klein receives a terse telegram from Washington. Tropical storm disturbance moving northward over Cuba. He is not alarmed. On the morning of September 7th, he walks to the beach for his routine observations. The tide is higher than normal. Swells are rolling in from an unusual direction. The wind is blowing from the north, backwards, counterintuitive. His younger brother Joseph, also a meteorologist at the same office, notices the same signs and draws a completely different conclusion. Joseph goes to Isaac. Isaac dismisses him. All it needed was 24 more hours. That changed on the morning of September 8th, 1900. Everything accelerated. By 8 a.m. on Saturday, September 8th, the barometric pressure in Galveston is dropping steadily. Rain is beginning to fall. Winds are picking up, but the skies are still partly cloudy. It looks like a rough day at the beach, not a death sentence. Children are already playing in the puddles on the streets, racing homemade rafts down Avenue B. Tourists who came for the summer are still in town. Families are eating breakfast, opening shops, heading to Saturday church services. Isaac Klein finally, at around 9 a.m., begins to suspect something is deeply wrong. The swells are now 4 to 5 feet high, rolling in with a force he has never seen. The barometer is in freefall. He makes a decision that breaks Weather Bureau protocol entirely. Without authorization from Washington, without permission from Director Moore, he issues a hurricane warning for Galveston. It is, by most accounts, approximately 5 hours too late. By mid-morning, the water is rising faster than anyone can process. The storm is pushing the Gulf of Mexico toward the island from one side, while simultaneously pushing Galveston Bay onto the island from the other. The island is being pinched, squeezed by water from both directions at once. By noon, the Strand, the Wall Street of the Southwest, is under 2 feet of water. By 2:30 p.m., the entire northern side of the island is flooding. The bridges to the mainland collapse under the surge. 38,000 people are now trapped on an island with no escape. What those families didn't know was that the worst hadn't started yet. The storm's eye wall, the most violent band of wind and water, had not yet made landfall. At 6 p.m., it arrived. This was no longer a flood. It was becoming something for which the English language has no adequate word. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on September 8, 1900, the full force of the Great Galveston Hurricane makes landfall. Sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. Gusts exceeding 150. A storm surge, a wall of ocean, 16 feet high. For reference, the highest point on Galveston Island is 8.7 feet above sea level. The storm surge is nearly double that. The entire island is underwater. The surge arrives not as a gradual rise, but as a wave. A single, monstrous pulse of the Gulf of Mexico consuming everything in its path. Houses near the beachfront don't flood. They disintegrate. The storm rips the first row of homes apart and hurls that debris, timber, brick, glass, iron, into the second row at 140 miles per hour. The second row falls. Its debris destroys the third row. The destruction is a chain reaction moving north through the city at the speed of a hurricane. Isaac Klein's own house, built specifically to withstand the worst storm he could imagine, has 18 people sheltering inside it. At around 8 p.m., a 4-foot surge hits in seconds, filling the ground floor before anyone can move. Klein opens the front door and water is immediately at his waist. The house begins to move, lifted from its foundation and carried by the surge. Then it breaks apart. Klein's pregnant wife, Cora, is thrown from his arms into the water. She is never seen alive again. Klein grabs his youngest daughter, 6-year-old Esther, and rides a raft of debris through the pitch-black night. His brother Joseph, somewhere in the same darkness, finds the other 2 daughters and does the same. They all survive. The majority of Galveston does not. In the neighborhoods closest to the beach, entire blocks are not simply destroyed. They are swept clean, no debris, no foundation, nothing, as if no one had ever lived there. People trying to wade through the water towards safety are struck by flying bricks, by timber moving at hurricane speed, by roof slate cutting through the air like blades. A 30-foot wall of debris, houses, furniture, bodies, trees, piles up across the middle of the island. Some people clinging to rooftops crash into it and survive by climbing on top. Most are crushed underneath. The storm rages until past midnight. Then, with the cruelty that only nature can manage, it passes. The morning of September 9th arrives clear, calm, beautiful. A perfect blue sky over an island of corpses. By sunrise, every bridge to the mainland is destroyed. Every telegraph line is down. The outside world has no idea Galveston is gone. Inside the city, survivors walk across the debris field in silence. The wreckage is 30 feet high in some places. Rescuers walk on top of it and hear, beneath their feet, screaming, trapped survivors, people alive inside the wreckage, unable to be reached. The bodies number in the thousands. The ground is too saturated to bury them. Authorities load hundreds of bodies onto barges and dump them at sea. 3 days later, the bodies wash back to shore. Out of desperation, out of terror of disease, the survivors build funeral pyres across the city, open-air fires, burning the dead in the streets. Those fires burn for weeks. The final confirmed death toll is 8,000 people, with credible estimates reaching as high as 12,000. It remains the deadliest natural disaster in American history by an enormous margin. Hurricane Katrina, 105 years later, killed approximately 1,500 people. The Galveston storm killed 5 times that at minimum. The true number will never be known, because entire families were erased and the dead left no one to count them. The storm fundamentally changed how the United States approaches weather forecasting forever. The Cuban warnings that had been suppressed for years of bureaucratic ego became standard protocol. Regional forecasting centers were established. Hurricane science in America accelerated from near ignorance to functional expertise. Isaac Klein, the man who called the danger an absurd delusion, who lost his wife in the storm he failed to predict, spends the rest of his career in penance and brilliance. He becomes one of the foremost hurricane researchers in American history. He establishes, scientifically, that storm surge, not wind, is the deadliest component of a hurricane. The National Weather Service's highest honor bears his name today. The city of Galveston refuses to die. Within 4 years, it builds a seawall 17 feet high and 6 miles long, one of the most ambitious engineering projects in American history. It then raises the elevation of the entire city, lifting thousands of buildings on hydraulic jacks and pumping 16 million cubic yards of dredged sand underneath them. In 1915, another major hurricane strikes Galveston with similar wind speeds. The seawall holds. 8 people die instead of 8,000. But the golden era of Galveston is finished. The investors don't return. Houston builds its ship channel. The trade routes shift inland. The Wall Street of the Southwest becomes a quieter place. A beach town, a city that carries its grief in its bones. Every hurricane that strikes the American coast today is tracked by satellites, modeled by supercomputers, and communicated through systems built directly on the wreckage of what failed in Galveston. The 3-day advance predictions we take for granted, the mandatory evacuations, the storm surge models. All of it traces back to a sandbar island in Texas and a single catastrophic night. The window to save Galveston closed years before September 8th. It closed in 1891, when a government meteorologist told a city it was safe. It closed every year the seawall petition was rejected. It closed when the Cuban warnings were silenced by politics. By the time the water came, it had been closed for a decade. 8,000 Americans died so that system could exist. Remember them.